Hey YouTube, this is MintyJosh19 here, and welcome back to my channel. So, in today's World of Warship videos, we're going to be talking about the British battle cruisers. Now, there's a whole bunch of different types of cruisers you can get. Some of them I don't know the name of. So the ones I do know the name of, I will say this. I will say their names pretty much. So the first ship you're going to get is a Tier 1 ship. The Hms Weymouth. I don't know. She's your average pre-World War I battle cruiser. She entered service in 1911. There were 4 ships in her class, in her series. She had weak armor protection, but boasted powerful artillery and a high speed. So while she didn't have the best armor protection of her hull, she did have some pretty powerful artillery on her. The next ship you get is a Tier 2 ship, the Clayton. There are some similarities between this ship and the Tier 1 ship. But the only difference is this ship has torpedo launchers on both sides of it. This ship was designed to provide support to destroyers and perform reconnaissance missions. And what makes her different from her predecessors was again the torpedoes. She entered service in 1917, and there were 4 ships in her series. But then you have the Tier 3 ship, the Hms Dane. Now the Dane is where you start to get the modern hull look. And what I mean by that is you'll notice how the bow kind of extends into like an angle upward. There were 8 ships in the series, and she entered service in 1918. She was developed from the Clayton class cruisers. She was bigger in size and had more powerful torpedoes, and she had reinforced artillery. Then you have the Hms Emerald. Now the Hms Emerald is also bigger. She entered service in 1926. And while she is bigger, in my opinion, in the game, she's actually one of the weaker ships. There were only 2 ships in the series. She entered service in 1926. She was a light cruiser among this design during the First World War. She had a high speed, and next up is the Hms Hawkins. Now the Hawkins I don't know much about, but I do know that she entered service in 1919, so just after World War I. She suppressed every light cruiser of World War I in the size and the caliber of her main guns, so that she was slightly bigger. There were 5 ships in our series. Next up, you have the Tier 5 ships. So this one is the Leander, I think to say it. She was a new generation of light cruiser, designed to serve as a scout, both within a squadron and independently. She was different from her predecessors because if you noticed, her guns are fully encased. They're not just sitting out in the open, and she has 2 barrels per turret, and she also has a stronger AA defense. She entered service in 1933, and there were 5 ships in her series. Next up, you have the Hms Devonshire, something like that. She was one of the London-class ships during the British Washington Treaty cruisers of the 2nd series. She entered service in 1929. There are 4 ships in the series, and she was considered, I want to say, a heavy cruiser. She also had reinforced armor protection as well. Next we have the Hms Fiji. Now the Fiji is I consider a light cruiser, but she was actually a multi-purpose cruiser. She entered service in 1940. There were 11 ships in her series, so she was actually entered service a year into World War II. And she carried numerous rapid-firing main guns and 4 triple turrets. Next up we have the Hms Surrey. Now the Surrey was designed in the 1920s. Her main battery consisted of 8 203mm guns placed in turrets in superfiring positions. Her armor protection was excellent. She was the only ship in her class though, which is a shame because the ship's design is amazing. So that was a shame. Next up you have the final tier ships. The HMS Edinburgh? Something like that. Now this ship, she entered service in 1939. She was designed in the 1930s. She carried more powerful AA batteries than her predecessors. She only had 2 ships in her series. And she was the most powerful light cruiser in the British Royal Navy during World War II. Now this ship, she wasn't built, but her year of design was 1940. She was a project, and as being a well-protected heavy cruiser, she was designed a year after the outbreak of World War II. However, she wasn't actually built, so that's kind of a shame. And so now that we have the main ones done, come over here, and there's no cruisers here. You check the bureau. Here's one, the Hms Minotaur. Now, this ship, she was a light cruiser project with dual-purpose main battery guns, and she was developed after the end of World War II. So I don't think that she was actually built. Yeah, so she was designed in 1947. But she was supposed to be laid down in 1951, 1952, 1953, with 2 ships per year. But they were to be ready by 1957. But the plans had changed, and the development of aircraft carriers and anti-submarine ships was actually introduced. So the HMS Minotaur was never actually built. And then you come to the store. Now there are a couple of new ships. The IJN Hyugas are here, which is pretty cool. Let's see, cruisers. Well, first is the HMS Tiger. Now the Tiger was the ultimate all-gun cruiser in the Royal Navy, armed with the most advanced and powerful guns in Great Britain in the 1950s. So there were only 3 ships in the series, and she entered service in 1959. So she actually didn't see any action during World War II, because by the time she entered service, World War II had been over pretty much 20 years. Maybe more. Next is the HMS Cheshire. So she wasn't built, but instead she was designed in 1940. And what the difference that between her and the other cruisers, as you notice, the torpedo launchers are in the hull, underneath the bridge. They're not actually sitting on top of her deck. So that's kind of weird. Next up, you have the HMS London. Now, the London entered service in 1929. There were 4 ships in the series. She was the lead ship in a second series of County-class cruisers during the British Washington Treaty. Cruisers armed with powerful 203mm cannons. She underwent an extensive modernization in the 1930s, which changed her exterior and reinforced her armor and AA batteries. And then you have the HMS Extra. I think that's how you say its name. Now, the Extra, this was a York-class ship, and was the last heavy cruiser to be inducted into the Royal Navy. She had a good, well-balanced combination of speed and armor protection and armament, consisting of 3 dual-mounted turrets. And she was the only ship of her class. And technically, if you wanted to, you could also count my favorite ship personally, the HMS Hood. Because technically the Hood is a battle cruiser, not a battleship. But everybody always called her a battleship. The reason that she was actually technically declared, sorry, I'm just tired, a battle cruiser was, if you watched one of my previous videos I did, the Hood's deck armor was not very thick, and that is why one shell from the battleship Bismarck blew her in half, and she sunk. So that's it for the British cruisers. My next videos I will be doing the British destroyers, and then after that I will move on to the Japanese aircraft carriers. So, but that's it for this video. Hit the like and subscribe button below, don't forget to leave a comment, and I will see you all next time.